Welcome back to the kitchen at Andersen Acres. Today we're going to make pull-apart bread. Now I am making this because somebody asked me if I could give them ideas for something else to make with just white bread dough. So I said, sure, there's lots of options. I'm going to start with just your basic pull-apart loaf. So to make a basic pull-apart loaf, you have to start with a basic white dough. It's a very nice dough, very soft, almost like a marshmallow. Um, if you don't know how to make this, I will put a link in the description to me making the white bread dough. The recipe for the white bread dough will pop up on your screen right about now, and that's the recipe I use. If you don't know how to make it, refer back to that video. It's really not difficult. You can either make it with a bread maker or make it by hand, or you can kind of go the middle road and use a mixer to mix your dough and then do the kneading and rising by hand. That's up to you. It really doesn't matter. So basic pull-apart loaf. First thing you're going to need is a pan. You can just use a basic bread pan if you like. Okay, that's completely fine. You can just put them in here, stack them. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. I'm not going to use a bread pan. I'm actually going to use my silicone bundt pan. I love baking this in my bundt pan because it just gives me a lot of options and it's a lot of fun. And it comes out looking really cute. So this is what I'm going to use today. You just start by a light spritz, because this is silicone. I don't have to put too much. If you're using a glass or a metal pan, make sure you spray it well so your pull-apart loaf comes out. I'm just using a light coating. And what I'm using to coat that, I'm just using a canola oil cooking spray. You can use a cooking spray, you can use a little bit of butter and flour. It's up to you. It doesn't matter as long as it's not going to stick. Okay, the next thing we want to do is take our dough, make absolutely sure we've squeezed out the air bubbles, called punching down sometimes, but I call it just squeezing out the air bubbles because I'm not punching anything. I'm just squeezing the dough. So I'm going to start dividing this. Now, I want fairly small, so I'm dividing it in 4 to start. I want fairly small pull-aparts. Okay, so people can just pull them off the loaf and go. So I'm dividing into 4 first, and then I'm going to roll each of these 4 into balls, and then I'll divide those into 4. I want a total of 32, and the reason I pick 32 is because if I just keep chopping them in bits, I end up with that many. So first I had 1, now I have 4. Now I'm going to cut each of those 4 in half, in quarters, sorry, in half first, then into a quarter, and then you have 16. Then I'm going to divide each of those 16 pieces in 2. Okay, because if I divided them in quarters again, they'd get really small. And remember, when they rise, they will double in size. So I'm going to take each of these quarters. I'm just going to shove them all over here out of the way for a minute. I'm just going to get these out of my way because they're not important right now. Well, they are, but not really. I need my pan. So you take your pan, take one of your quarters. I don't like when that rides up, that's annoying. And you take one of your quarters and divide that quarter in half. You can just do that with your hands, that's not a big deal. So you just rip it in half. Then you make a ball out of each one. Okay? And then you just start lining the bottom. It doesn't matter if they're perfect balls. You can actually just drop them in like that. It doesn't matter, they're going to rise. So you just take each bit, and drop it into the bottom of the pan. You're making a single layer, okay? We're making just a single layer. So rip each one in 2. They don't have to be perfect. They rise up pretty perfect. So just keep dropping them by 2. So I end up with 8 in the bottom of here. Okay, they don't have to look fancy. So I end up with 8 in the bottom here. Now here's where you need about 3 tablespoons or so of melted butter. We just take our melted butter and we just, yeah, just a little, it's not complicated. We just put some melted butter in here. Then we keep going. We get more of these, rip them in half, and again, just drop them. So this time you'll probably had 8 on the bottom. I had 8 on the bottom. Depending on your pan, really, you won't know how many you need until you start filling your pan. But I end up with a total of 32 little balls. So I had 8 on the bottom row. I'm probably going to have probably 10 on this next row, just because the pan I'm using does get wider. So then you just kind of jam them in there. So now I've got a second row. And with my second row, I take more butter and I just glop that on. You don't have to be particularly fancy. You do need to use butter. Please do not try to use margarine. It doesn't turn out very well. Okay. Then we want to do it again. Remember, when they rise, they'll about double in size. So you do need to allow for that in your pan. If your pan is full right to the top, you're going to have a problem because it's all going to go everywhere. That's why I like using a bundt pan, because it doesn't go anywhere. It just stays in here. So you can use any kind of pan you like. Any pan you like the shape of. It doesn't matter. It comes out cute. Comes out fun. So I'm just going to put the rest of these in here. So first I had 8, then I had the 10. Now I'm just putting the rest. How many you put on each layer will really depend on your pan. So it depends for you. For me, this is how it's going to go because this is the size of the pan. One more. Okay. I'll stick one over here and one over here. So that looks pretty even to me. Now I take a little bit more butter, and on that goes, because you don't want to be stingy on the butter. It's important that the butter get in there so you can pull your pull-apart loaf apart after it's baked. But we're not going to bake it yet. It is okay to use up all your butter. Absolutely use all of it. We're not going to bake it yet. It has to go for its second rise. So we're just going to set it aside. I'm going to put mine in my microwave. Because my microwave is a closed environment, it'll keep it nice and humid. I'm just going to stick it in my microwave, not turn the microwave on, and just let it rise for about an hour. Then we'll come back and we will bake it. All right, so our pull-apart bread has risen up quite nicely. It has a little bit more than doubled in size. It tends to do that when you add the butter. Now you can top this with sesame seed, black sesame, poppy seed, anything you like. I'm not going to top it with anything because I like it with just the butter. But you certainly can. You could top it with dehydrated onion flakes or whatever comes into your head. Anything you like. We're going to bake this just like this. We're going to bake it for 25 minutes at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. So our pull-apart bread has just come out of the oven. I know you can't smell it, but I can, and it smells like melted butter. It smells fantastic. It's been cooling for about 20 minutes. Don't remove it from the pan until it's been about 20 minutes. You want it to cool enough. So that is your pull-apart bread. You just eat it like it sounds. You just grab a piece, rip it off, and enjoy. All right, it's great on a table. Again, you could have done sesame seed or poppy seed on here before you baked it. I chose not to, and it smells divine. You can't smell it, but it's melted butter everywhere is the smell. That's one of the reasons you let it cool 20 minutes before you take it out of the pan, because there is loose butter. You want to give that a little bit of time to cool. But these are delicious, excellent at a dinner. So take a chance, make some pull-apart bread. It's really, really easy. And just make sure everyone's hands are clean when they're ripping pieces off because, you know, people need to have clean hands before they touch food anyway. So just make sure everyone's hands are clean and then go to town. Everyone will enjoy this. Thanks for joining us today. If you'd like to see more of our videos, especially our baking videos, don't forget to subscribe so that you keep notified on everything that's happening here on the farm. We'll see you tomorrow.